Good morning, everybody. Let me just get this watch list finished and posted for you guys right here. Morning, guys. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. We had our wonderful giveaway winner. Luckily, they were in Valor. That's really cool. Obviously, the odds were in anyone in Valor's favor. $2,000. Fabrizio has requested $2,000 cash instead of the laptop because he is not here. He's not in the country. Understandable. Um, all right, get this posted here. Do you guys think we should do another giveaway? Another end of the year thing? Oops. All right. All right. I'm gonna get it posted right now if I can fix this typo. All right. Watch list is up. Let's go over it. Oh man, where did I put this? All right, guys. So the watch list is posted within Circle. Some people apparently were not aware of that. So, um, let's start going over this. NQQQQ. I have a bounce area, this 4 hour key level, 415. All right. It lines up on the day with QQQ. It lines up with 613. So 613 roughly to get that 25,415 for bounce level for calls. I want to see us hold support and move above. All right. Just so everyone is aware, I mean what I'm really looking at here is basically the 4 hour levels as a whole. I'm just watching to see how we react off these 4 hour levels and then making that decision based on volume. Um, so here, let me, so take a look at my 4 hour chart here. You guys see how we're just moving off these 4 hour levels pretty cleanly, right? Pretty clean, pretty clean. Comes up to the 4 hour, starts to reject, come back down pretty clean. Earlier, the 415, pretty clean bounces. So that's what I'm looking for today. That's what I'm trying to keep an eye on here. I want to see if we can get some positive reaction. Ideally, if we can bounce off of 415, which we've done, which that's why we will have a bounce prepared just in case we come back down. But if not, then that is why I have that follow-up breakout level. All right. So, or a breakout of 25,447, or 613.7 for calls. Okay. Um, the whole goal is to ride that up into the 82 level. And obviously, I would love to see us break through both these levels and just rip to the upside if we can. But the idea this morning, I am pretty bullish unless we fail 25,400. If we fail 25,400, where you can see there was quite a fight here, quite a fight. I want to avoid this. I want to avoid if we price did come down and hits 85, I want to avoid possibly becoming liquidity and it just bouncing aggressively. So that's why I'm not looking for shorts until 25,372. Okay. So that's pretty far away from where we're at now. That's 70 points away. So let's say the market opens up here and just starts to dump. The safe bet is to wait for 25,372 just to see if we do happen to bounce here. Because if we do happen to bounce, let's say we flush to 385 and it starts bouncing aggressively, we can look to take that entry if it confirms above 415. We can still look to take that entry. We're just looking for basically a continuation bounce. So just something to keep in mind. Um, and a lot of this is based because yesterday the market, we got really good trades, don't get me wrong, but look what they kept doing at the 4 hour bounce. The market kept bouncing real aggressive in this range, super aggressive. 4 hour bounce, right back up. So, we're not anywhere near those levels, unfortunately, but it's something good to keep in mind. All right. Um, okay. Tesla. And this level is the breakout level, 25,447. So it might be just a little bit shy. There you go. 1.7. Tesla. Obviously, we had that strength yesterday. I was hoping that strength would continue from the second trade. I was hoping that strength would continue there. Ended up holding that level beautifully, absolutely beautifully. Ended up holding that level, um, which I did take note of on the live. I said it is good to see it holding the level, but I wasn't trying to take another trade. But it did move pretty well right off the level, pushed up to the upside, made some new all-time highs, and we're holding above. Now that fresh all-time high that was made is 491.50. But I do want to keep in mind that the previous all-time high, we are actually holding below that level, and that is a key level. So I want to leave this here until we can get above it. Tesla today, I got three setups really. Tesla, we could take a breakout of 488.36, the most aggressive with the highest reward ratio. Um, you can be more conservative and wait for the actual all-time high that was formed previous day high and all-time high, 491.5. That is definitely going to be a strong order block. Um, or we can look for a bounce of 472.67, where we bounced yesterday, the level we held yesterday, which was the entry for the breakout. All right. So that's my setup for Tesla. Um, Friendly reminder, Tesla is not a beginner stock. I see a lot of beginners trading Tesla. You should be trading QQQ. A lot of people have this obsession with Tesla. I think maybe because I make a lot of money with Tesla, where they just think Tesla's cool. This is not a beginner stock. This is a stock where if you enter 2 seconds later, you have a completely different fill than everyone else. So this stock moves aggressively. It moves fast. It has harsh wicks. So keep that in mind. Okay. Don't just show up and say, wow, I like Tesla. I'm going to day trade Tesla. You're better off watching. In the meantime, there's a reason these contracts are so expensive on a Monday. It's because the demand is so high. So many people trade Tesla, not a beginner stock to trade. You want to know a beginner stock to trade? Apple. Apple is a beginner stock to trade. Nvidia is not a beginner stock to trade, but it is much more cost effective, much more cost friendly. You can trade one or two contracts and it's not going to break the bank. Um, Same thing with Meta. Meta could get quite a bit of slippage. Okay. You need to be prepped on Meta. You could buy Meta at the same time I buy Meta, but you're 1 second later just due to science. And I'm up 10% and you're not. Nvidia, I would like to see some strength here on Nvidia. I don't have anything for the downside. I like the consolidation hold and break out into the high that it formed yesterday. So 177, this entire range, 177 to 178. What I'm looking for is really strong volume to kick in to take a breakout. So if we start to sell off and come back up, I'll look at 177. Or let's say we open right here and we start to push, I'll just look for 178 or a breakout for calls. Then Meta, 659.7 is what I have on watch on Meta. That pre-market high kind of formed with my level. Meta had a really, really aggressive day yesterday. Look at this, guys. Straight off the open, just took off. Absolutely took off, basically. And it sold off a bit in the last 5 minutes of the market open. So um, want to use that 659.76 for that possible breakout. We can at least push this up into 662.50 right there. We can at least target that and see how it reacts afterwards. All right. Get my broker unlocked here. QQQ doing 615 calls. And if we do set up for shorts, I'll be doing the 611 puts. Tesla, you can do the 490 all the way to the 500 calls. 500 calls have 68,000 open interest. Holy moly. That is a lot of open interest. Meta, you could do the 660 to the 670 calls on Meta. All right, and then NVIDIA 180 calls. What's that? Oh, Johnny. No, Tesla, come on. Don't do my trade in the pre-market. That's right. I like the divergence on Tesla. Market's showing weakness. Tesla's holding up. All right, so for Tesla, I got the 500 calls loaded. That's what I have ready at the open. Um, Looking to see if the market can bounce this key level. If the market cannot bounce that key level, I'm going to be watching for might enter into shorts early. It really just depends what the volume shows me over here. But I need to be very selective with this. There's nothing wrong with being patient today if you want to be patient. Here we go. QQQ calls. I'm in these guys. 615 calls. 615 calls, guys. My fill on the contracts is $1.05 a contract here. Basically trying to see if we hold this 415 level. I liked all the buy orders that just kicked in. There's a lot of volume pushing both directions right now. So this trade could sell straight through and stop us out immediately. Basically going to hold till, God, I got such a good fill on this. The contracts are holding up beautifully here. I'm in Tesla as well. Tesla 500 calls. My fill on the Tesla calls was $5.10 a contract. Trimming now at $6.50 a contract is where I'm trimming here on Tesla. Tesla is absolutely diverging here beautifully. On the 615 calls, I'm basically going to stop out at 95 cents a contract, or I'm going to trim at $1.20 if we start to push up there. Tesla's beautiful here. Absolutely beautiful. This is 20% profit, so make sure you trim here on Tesla. This is 20% at 491.50. Wrong one. Oh, Tesla. Oh my goodness. Still holding Tesla here. All right, trim on QQQNQ, everybody. Take a trim here on QQQNQ, $1.28 a contract. So we're sitting here up about 40% profit on Tesla, 35, 40% profit on Tesla. And then on NQ, push right up to 447 here. So about 32 points profit on NQ. If you have your stop at entry, just be aware of that. If your stop is sitting at entry based on that 4-hour level entry, rejected right at 447, man. Right at 32 points. Keep an eye on Tesla here. Now remember this 491. I've sold half the position here at 491. I'm going to sell a little bit more of Tesla. So I'm out of 3/4 of Tesla here at 491.60, yesterday's high. And now I'm going to target pre-market high on Tesla. Markets, it's getting very volatile around this range. It's trying to hold this 4-hour key level. You can just wait for the 5-minute candle to close if you got your 32 points and then it pushed you out, came back to entry. But just wait for this 5-minute candle to close. We'll see how this starts to set up here. Got a lot of volume coming in here on Tesla. Point of control on QQQ is 613. It's 613. This is where all the volume is. Where we are right now is where all the volume is. So it's sitting at the key level. I just want to see if this volume can hold the key level. If the volume can hold this 4-hour key level, guys, we are set. We are set. This should see a nice move to the upside. Unfortunately, what's dragging us down is NVIDIA, because look, SPY's doing all right, but NVIDIA is dragging us down here. Tesla, absolutely beautiful on Tesla. The contracts have not made a new high, unfortunately, on Tesla. The contracts are struggling. Come on, bro. 685. There we go. $7 a contract. Nice. All right, take another trim here on Tesla, everybody. I'm going to shoot for 500 on Tesla. I want to see where this closes to get some idea of where NQ wants to go. NQ, QQQ. Five seconds here. We're about to close below the level. Have it 611 puts ready. 611 puts. I'm in these guys based on the 5-minute candle close below the 4-hour key level here. This can be my third trade. Keep that in mind. This is my third trade. So 611 puts. Fills $1.45 a contract. I will stop out at $1.20 a contract, basically. I want to see this start to flush straight down. Again, this is based on the failure of the 4-hour level. If it comes back up on the 4-hour level, I'm not trading that again, obviously. Nvidia is just dumping here. All right, I'm taking my first trim here, $1.60 a contract. This is my first trim on QQQNQ, everybody. There we go. Beautiful. 25% profit here. 25% profit, guys. Targeting this next level, 67 points now. I'm half out of the position on QQQNQ. Half out. 45% profit here. It's just going straight through. It's going straight through here for everybody. So everyone should be absolutely loving this setup right now. I got to draw this over here too. Or no, that's a NQ. All right. What was that entry? Right there. All right, so we're up about 67 points profit here on NQ. This is a nice area for a full exit. If you don't want to deal with any drawdown, beautiful area for a full exit. We are more than likely going to bounce here. Okay, guys? More than likely going to encounter a bounce. If you're trying to crawl, walk, run into some of these running trades, try to catch a big trade, you can sell 9 contracts and leave one. All right. Crawl, walk, run, right? You do not have to go full porting, into some of these trades and be like, I'm going to risk half my profits. Tesla, I would have stops at entry on Tesla. Remember, Tesla, we slapped Tesla in the mouth this morning. Stole that from one of the students, Zach. Tesla, we rocked that thing. That was a beautiful trade. Um, even if you entered late, you would have been totally fine on Tesla. Just being wary of the previous day high and then being wary of pre-market high. So we got two really good trims off on Tesla. Uh, I still want to see if we can hit 500 though. I really want to see if we can hit that whole psychological number right there. That'd be incredible. All right. And remember, so far this is 67 points. So double the profit from the first trade, only 32 points. If you don't, this is a possible bounce area. I literally have it right here on QQQ. We are more than likely going to bounce here. So if you want to deal with no drawdown whatsoever, this is where you take the full exit. All right. Wonderful day, though, right? Absolutely beautiful day. Good job, guys. Good job. Now, if you took QQQ calls, QQQ puts, NQ longs, NQ shorts, you took either of those two setups, or you took Tesla calls, you did incredible today. I want you. Good job, Caleb. Right now, take your right hand, pat yourself on the back. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. This is not easy to trade. It's not. So you did a really, really good job. I know some people might ask me this later, so just in order to be proactive about it, some people might ask, "Hey James, if you have a possible bounce level here and you're saying, hey, this is a good full exit because it might bounce, why not fully exit the trade and then enter into calls?" That might be some people's thought process. The reason I don't like to do that is because I like to stick to the original trade unless it's overextended. So we've seen this before where the market will have a bounce within the 5 minute candle. Yes, the market might give you a 30-point bounce within the candle. So it is a good day trade per se. Let's say you skipped on the short trade and you said, I'm going to wait for James's bounce area. We come hit 611 and right when it hits the level, you enter for calls and it pushes, 30 points and you get 30 points out of that. And then boom, it comes back to the entry. That is a good day trade. However, from my perspective, my whole goal when I enter trades is entering behind heavy volume, reading that tape, trying to follow the order flow. Will that mess me up? Yeah, of course. Sometimes it will mess me up because sometimes the order flow isn't clear. And right when I see a lot of buyers present, 10 seconds later, there's a lot of bids that hit the tape. There's a lot of sellers that show up and it completely messes up the trade. And there's nothing I can do about that, which is why whenever I do take losses, which you guys have seen, my demeanor changes in no way whatsoever. You guys wouldn't even know I took a loss, which is the goal, right? To kind of be robotic while you're trading. So this is 100 points down here, the next strong support level we're shooting for on this trade. Uh, but it's just my 2 cents. That's why I'm very adamant about holding some trades until it gets too overextended. Now, if we get 250% in profit, 200 points in profit, yeah, I might look to take just a massive full exit and maybe use some of those profits for longs. But you got to remember, this is also my third trade. I based on my rules to keep me disciplined. I'm not trading again after this. That was literally my third trade because we have one, two, three. Okay. So I would never do that in the first place. I'm betting on the fact that this thing could at least get me 100 points. So to that next support level, which we're just a little bit shy of, but I will be looking for 100 points profit here. By the way, for all my energy drink fiends out there, as much as I love White Monster, I like to switch it up sometimes. This isn't an ad, but I love The Rock, and he has a energy drink called Zoa. If you guys can see that, it's incredible, and he has a Christmas edition. How cool is that? It tastes amazing, which is the important part. But the whole reason I like Monster is because it tastes amazing. And for something about the white Monster is very comforting, but it's such slow caffeine compared to other energy drinks. Super low caffeine. So I'm pretty sure Monster's only 120 milligrams caffeine, which isn't a lot, by the way. All right, come on, give us 100 points here, bud. We're almost there. Boom. All right, let's trim on QQQNQ, everybody. Let's take that trim, 100 points profit right here. 100 points profit. We are well over 100% on QQQ, by the way. Well, not really. Could depend on your fill. You could be right at 100%. You could be at 80%. You could be at 90% because those contracts move fast from my entry. For my entry, they basically went from $1.42 up to $1.65 within 1 minute. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm majority out of the trade now. I am majority out of the trade myself on QQQ at this strong support level down here at 100 points in profit. $100 points. How's that, guys? You guys love that or what? 102 points profit. Where's that button at? Pretty cool, huh? And pretty quick, right? 13 minutes in a market open. 102 points, got a small 32 point right before that. I'm going to put 90. I'm going to put 90% here as an average because I know some of you probably just got right to like 90% or 85% started pushing back. So, but regardless, we got that trim. Peak trim as of now, peak trim. Tesla has unfortunately come back to the entry, but it is holding very well. Um, the only issue is how much value the contracts have lost. That's the only issue with Tesla. So I am out of Tesla myself personally. I still like the idea of this holding 48.36 and hitting that new 500 level. I still like that idea, but we will see. It's very hard for Tesla to do that while the market's selling through like this. All right, I'm going to do a quick recording if you guys don't mind. No, no, no. The second, Kevin, the second we got that 5 minute candle close, that's why I was trying to educate you guys literally prior to taking the entry when I said I'm getting the 611 puts ready. Uh, you know, 5 minute candle close below a 4 hour level, I'm going short. All right, I'm going to do a recording. If you guys do the emojis and all that, if you like today at least. If you hate it today, I'm sorry. All right. So sitting here roughly 13 minutes in the market open. Absolutely crush it. Students love it today. Posted the watch list, the whole nine. We took an initial entry for longs, only got 32 points out of this roughly. But then we entered into a short position based on a failure of a 4 hour level. Got a nice flush down here for 102 points of profit. And Tesla with a nice rip to the upside, forming some new all time highs. Thank you. Cringe moment is over. All right. So remember, I'm saying it again, right? That 60 point area, just being cautious of that bounce, which it did bounce a little bit, right? It bounced what? 15 points, it looks like 20 points. Same thing here. We're prepared for this strong support level in case it does bounce. So that's what we're looking at for. That's why we've taken that majority exit. Thoughts on NASDAQ going to 24-hour market won't affect market open volume? I couldn't tell you, Ari, unfortunately. I would love to sound smart and pretend like I do know. I assume it would change it dramatically. I assume it would. Um, oh wow, big flush through here, guys. Um, at this point, we're just targeting. We're stretching this out quite a bit. So 150 points will be the next target. All right, which is the other 4 hour key level. So we will keep flushing. Nope, 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 nope. Oh my gosh. All right, take another trim. Take another trim right now. Oh wow. 611 puts are at 340 a contract. So you should very well be over 100% right now profit. Everyone should be over 100% profit on QQQ. This is absolutely nuked through this level. So we've taken our second trim. Sorry, I wish. We've taken another trim here. Whatever small position you got left. If you only have one contract left and you don't want to sell here, if you're being a little greedy, keyword is greedy because this is a really good profit. You can have a trailing stop above 100 points. But remember, you cannot sit through too much drawdown on these prop firms. So don't go sitting through 75, 80 points of drawdown on your last runner. That is ridiculous. Imagine if you said one day, F it, I'm going to buy market with one MNQ. I'm going to target 80 points P&L and you got it. You would be ecstatic. You would be like, dude, I just made $160 with one MNQ. Think about the same thing down here. One MNQ, where we're at now, is $300, guys. That's $300. Do not underestimate the power of one MNQ as a runner. All right. I'm saying that mainly to motivate some of you to hold these trades because I know there's a ton of you who you can raise your hand. I know there's a ton of you that probably scalped this. You probably didn't even wait for 67 points. You probably took a full exit at 30 to 40 points. So just keep that in mind. All right. Especially if you were in this trade, you probably were like, I only got 30 points at the last trade. This trade, I'm going to full exit at 30. I'm going to full exit 30. I'm not messing around with this. And then you see this and you're like, I could have got five times you know, the push basically. All right. So QQQ, we got a really good trim on QQQ up there, around 340 a contract. But 138% profit at the peak, at the very peak. That was 138%. All right, Tesla is unfortunately giving this up. What I would like to see with Tesla, if it comes back up, remember, my only bounce level I have on Tesla is unfortunately all the way down here. Unfortunately. So, but I will watch that. I will watch that. If that happens later in the day, I will try to text signal it to you guys. I'll do the at everyone. Look at this bounce, guys. Look at that on MQ. Are these 4 hour levels beautiful or no? Look how cool these 4 hour levels are, guys. The only place where the market really wanted to actually bounce today. I'm telling you guys, the 4 hour time frame, that is the beauty. That is, as of now, for this market that I've seen the last 2 years, in my opinion, 4 hour levels are prime. They are prime levels. Prime meaning like elite. They're really good in my opinion. I'm not saying trading off of or using the hourly or daily levels are bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying if you want to clean up your chart and you want to really just focus in on, hey, what's a strong key level? For me, it's 4 hour level. 4 hour level. See, look, basically got a massive wick to the downside, candle close above our key level up here. Odds are this is going to continue. So if you got that last runner, stops and profit type of thing, odds are I could totally see this coming all the way back to the entry. I'm calling it right now. We basically called it down there whenever we said, again, taking that majority trim for the, well, we took the majority trim here, but then mentioning, boom, it flushed straight to that 4 hour level like a magnet. And then now it's completely pushing to the upside. Let me see how the volume is here. So opening candle, not that much volume, guys, not that much volume, which does explain not getting too much movement out of that first trade, right? The first trade, man, it was about 10, 12% of drawdown, and then it pushed into 30% profit. But then instantly rejected, came back to the entry. But only 1.5 on the opening candle volume, which is basically right at the threshold where I determined, nah, it's all right. Second opening candle, usually where we see a sharp decrease in volume. 1.42 million on the tape. That is a lot for that second opening candle. So that second 5 minute candle, okay, here's the first one. The second one, basically just shy of us taking our entry. That's where a lot of those orders started to flow in. I'm sure some of you were nervous because right when I called it out, it didn't move. It moved against us. So some of you might have got a better fill than me. Uh, but it's sitting there floating, right? But the contracts are holding up really well. Contracts weren't moving much, but I'm sure on NQ, some of you were like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." I entered and I'm immediately in 6 points of drawdown. This sucks. But if anything, guys, that's the reason probably a lot of you got a similar fill to mine because it didn't immediately just dump. So, but then you immediately see the follow through there. That was based really heavily on volume. You guys saw how that trade just started to work in our favor almost right away, right? Almost 60 points in profit within the first 5 minutes. Carlos, it's called volume footprint. Carlos, pay attention. Look at my screen. I know you're a Marine, so pay attention here. See this? It's not an indicator. So look at my chart. I'm coming over here. It says candles. You left click, volume footprint. So it's going to change this right here. You're going to see NQ's volume footprint. And I'll show you right now, guys, the reason why I use QQQ as opposed to NQ. I want you guys to look at the volume difference, right? In my opinion, I like to read more volume. There's more participation on QQQ than there is NQ. So that's why I don't like to look at these baby numbers over here. I'd rather look at the large numbers I can see the massive variances. So that way I can truly see, because you'll see orders that are only 4,000. And then you see massive orders that are 117,000. You know what I mean? It's kind of impressive. So, but I prefer to use QQQ's volume over NQ. Now, you can do exactly what I do. That's what I've been doing this whole time. You can use QQQ's volume to take your NQ trades. All right. I had, it was so silly. So some of the, whenever someone cancels, if they're somewhat upset about it, I get notified. And there was a lady yesterday who canceled saying that there's too much rubbish. She was like, there's too many options trades. We're not focusing on NQ. And I like getting feedback so I can try to improve as a trader. And I'm sitting here like, there's no NQ trade. What is she talking about? I didn't reach out or anything because I just don't have time. But in my head, I'm like, I think maybe that's someone who showed up for one day and maybe they didn't get an NQ call out for some reason. I think I've called out NQ pretty much every single day. But yeah, it's one of those things to where someone might be skewed. Like they might be like, oh, this dude is looking at QQQ's volume. He's looking at QQQ to trade. They're the same thing, guys. QQQ and NQ both track the NASDAQ. They're the same thing. The volume varies heavily. I prefer the heavier volume ticker to watch and read for more precise entries. But just so you guys are all aware, if I say I am buying QQQ puts, wherever I'm at on the chart, that is the same thing as you entering into NQ shorts. It's the exact same thing. We are mirroring each other's traits. And I had someone else mention that they think I am manipulating liquidity. They say this guy's group, he's telling people to buy and then he's selling right away. I was like, that is such a compliment. If you think I can influence the NASDAQ, that is an incredible compliment. You could do that with penny stocks. With penny stocks, that is a thing, and people have gotten in trouble for that. That is definitely a thing. But guys, I can assure you, I do not have anywhere near enough money to influence the NASDAQ. Doesn't matter how many options I buy, that thing is not moving 1 cent because of me. All right. So you're given another chance here to exit pretty heavy in profit. If you did not like sitting through that bounce, if you were super nervous in that bounce and you're like, dude, this sucks. I should have sold down there. You're given another shot right here, guys. But it is, in my opinion, if this does continue to sell, I will be shocked. I will legitimately be shocked. So, because that wick is huge. That bounce was aggressive. It was based on a 4 hour level. Like I would definitely, the market would be proving me wrong, even though the trade would be right. The market would be proving my thesis wrong if it actually decides to make a new low. I don't think this thing makes a new low. I think it does a full reversal. Look at Tesla. You, Uh, I guess that's the beauty of a 5 minute candle close, right? Look at that. How impressive is that? Comes down to the pre-market low, retraces, completely reclaims the previous all-time high, and now it's pushing back up almost to where we were earlier. That's incredible. I truly I do admire Tesla's price action. It's an incredible stock to watch play out. I really love how it's holding 491.50, guys. That is a prime. I'm not going to be a part of it, obviously, but I would just love for everyone's sake. I would love to see this at $500 today. That would be so cool. That would be incredible, in my opinion. Look at that. It's basically doing a break and retest of 491.50. It's basically what it's doing. Here's the market bouncing. That's exactly what I thought would happen. This wick is just too strong, guys. That wick off the 4 hour key level. I was A, it was strong. We all watched it happen, but B, I truly would have been shocked if we made new lows. My stop loss is at entry. I didn't bring it back up in a profit because I've already sold so much in my position. It's irrelevant. If 50 contracts get sold here or if 50 contracts get sold up there, it's pretty much irrelevant. So I'm just letting them roll because I'm just always trying to, if I'm in the trade, I'm just always trying to shoot for the mega move. You know what I mean? I want to see how far they can go. You're welcome. Hey, it doesn't matter if you didn't take the same trades as me. I don't care. As long as you're trading responsibly, as long as you're learning, that's what's important. Making money with trading is a byproduct of following your system. So as long as you're trading responsibly and learning, you're probably trading your system. You will probably make money. My goal, my goal is that you guys get to where I am. That's my goal. My end goal. Will you make money every single day? No, nobody does. Nobody does. There's not a single trader on the planet that, will at some point your run will end. At some point your run will end. What you just have to tell yourself is when it does, are you controlled? Are you calm? Are you evaluating? What did you do wrong? Think about this. Think about you have an opponent. Your opponent is the market, but you have an opponent. All right. Or you can make this really simple. You're in a fist fight with somebody. Imagine if the person you're fighting, every time you hit them down, they get right back up. And imagine every time you knock them down, they learn and they evolve and they improve. Ha, how scary would that be, right? The thing you're fighting never dies, it never gives up. And the thing you're fighting constantly learns from its failures and gets better every single time. That's pretty hard to beat. Pretty hard to beat. All right. In terms of technical analysis right now, I see this level I have on QQQ. If we can close below this, I think this can start to set up nicely again, but this is the one area it can reject. So it can start to reject 334 and 611 area. If it starts to reject this, I could see this continuing to flush. The bounce has still been aggressive, but definitely something to keep in mind here. Just in case any of you are in the bounce. Just want to let you know. Tesla might start rejecting again here. Look at that. Rejecting again at the pre-market high with the market. Nvidia rejecting at 174. All right, guys. Yeah, basically. Any questions? Yeah, the what Terminator is that? With the guy that's like liquid glass. That's kind of who I'm talking about. That's exactly it. But that's how you want to be as a trader. Look at that rejection. Isn't that cool? Do you guys like that when you're watching this play out? Do you like it when I'm saying, hey, this is a 4 hour area. This is a key level. We're more than likely going to reject in this range. Like you could see a rejection here, and then sure enough, you start to see it happen. You know what I mean? This is the stuff I want you guys to see in real time. I want you to see this happening in real time so you're actually learning something from this. I don't want to be that keyboard warrior that's a trader that says, look at the move I caught after the fact with zero proof. Join my course, pay my mortgage. Breaking through another support level here. If we get a 5 minute candle close below this double bottom, you guys see this double bottom that formed here on QQQNQ. If we get a 5 minute candle close below that double bottom, I could see us going lower. But this double bottom right now is a support level. That's why this exact candle we're talking on right now is bouncing there. It's bouncing at that double bottom. So 5 minute candle close below this double bottom, I think this thing continues to flush. You're basically getting two confirmations. You're getting a rejection of this key level up here to the upside, rejection of that level, followed by a continuation with the confirmed breakthrough with volume of this double bottom that formed at 25,286 and at 609.90. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? All right. See, it's holding that double bottom really well as of now. Good, man. Good. All right, guys. Any questions? Give me the questions now. Let's start going over some questions. Let's start. Let me try to help you guys however I can. Again, unless for some reason you don't want someone to know you're asking that question, put the question in the Valor chat room. I prefer the question here. It's incredible what can happen in a 5 minute candle, isn't it? This thing sold through, it rejected this level, sold through, came to that double bottom we were talking about, and now it's bouncing back up aggressively. And that's no joke. That's about 50 points. 84 up to 41. Yeah. That's pretty aggressive. 55 point bounce. Or 55 point fluctuation, I should say, because it opened up here, then dumped, and then pumped right back up. Yeah, Cove, I don't trade futures. I don't trade futures. That's just you guys. I trade on Webull. Options are on Webull. No, I did not get stopped out of the first trade. First trade, I went into 12% drawdown, and then it pushed up into profit. We saw 30% profit at the peak, or 32 points, and stopped out at entry. If I got stopped out as a loss, I would have said it. Just like Tesla's trade yesterday. I took my loss. I said it out loud, but I'll mark it out up here. That was quick from the entry though. Don't be too harsh over that. If you took a loss here, I would only signify it to probably on futures. You could have been stopped out on futures, but the option contracts held up well. So if you're on futures, it just stopped you out. There's nothing you could have done about it. But on options, it would have just been a bad fill. So you could put that for your journal notes. Your trade idea was correct. You just had a bad fill. Let me just Top Step was down again. Was Top Step really down again for you guys? That's so frustrating. This is getting ridiculous. Oy. All right, I'm going to start from the top with these questions. I don't know why it updates me like this. All right. Good job, Haven. That's awesome, man. I prefer QQQ options. Yes, I prefer QQQ options. In my opinion, you're far more profitable trading options than futures. Just doing the math, I think options are much better to trade than futures. For someone who's successful is the key word. If you're not successful, you do not want to trade options because you are losing your own money. I can almost guarantee you, I can almost guarantee, this is just me being honest with you guys. I can almost guarantee you guys, you will lose way more money trading options your first 2 years of trading seriously. The keyword is trading seriously. Like I'm talking about journaling, showing up every single day, not being negative, being an optimistic person. The first 2 years, you would probably lose, I would say, in the realm of 20 all the way up to 100 grand trading options. Trading futures, obviously much more manageable, right? I mean, 5 grand a year, you can do some damage with futures, right? Because 5 grand a year, even if you're a bad trader, you might get 2 to 3 payouts in that year, which helps a little bit, right? Um, but the risk reward ratio, when you look at the price you're paying for that account versus the money you're risking, much better. Because with $100 on a take profit trader, at least $100 risk for the ability to make a couple $100 on the low end to a couple grand on the high end, you're not finding an options trade that's doing that, guys. You are not. Like a trade like this, even if you did time it with me, like let's say you just trimmed with me and 150% profit, you were able to take a good trim as well. So as of right now, your net ROI in this trade is in the realm of 80%. And let's say you went in with $100. You were risking $100 just like you would on a prop firm account. That means you made $80. That's what that means. Now you wouldn't be able to do that because you would have had to have bought multiple contracts in order to scale out with me. And the contracts are probably worth around $140. So you would have to buy multiple. So you can see how where your risk of $100, uh, let's say you would enter with, let's say, $800 position size. That would be around $100 risk. I mean, it's going to take you much longer to make money. And there's a higher likelihood of you making emotional mistakes because it's your own money. If you think if you think you fall victim to greed, fear, overtrading, oversizing, going on tilt with futures, it would only be exasperated with options. I can almost guarantee you that. Now, the reason I'm very skeptical of traders online that make money trading options and they're pushing out a promo code every single day on their story, every single day, get Apex 90% off, get Tradeify 80% off, do this 80% off. It's because they want that coupon code money. All right, I've made it very clear to you guys, they do make money from coupon codes. Anyone does with any business, the coupon codes, the whole point of it. But um, it doesn't make sense to me. Why is someone that claims they're a millionaire only making 2 grand a day using someone else's money? Why are you using someone else's money? Why are you paying a 10%, 20% commission? Why are you giving up the premium gain that you get with options? Because with options, you make a ton of money. Here's a good example. When a move really moves in your favor, all right, I'm going to compare these last two, I think yesterday, but the day prior. When you get these big trades like we got, right? Remember Monday, we got that massive flush down, really clean, beautiful trade. Look at the difference between the QQQ profit to the NQ. NQ was 350 points because there's no type of premium gain. Whereas options, you made 495% profit. There's nowhere else you're going to find that type of gain. Now, getting there is the hard part. I'm not trying to make it sound like it was easy. It's not easy. But that's why I just don't believe some of these people that trade futures at all. Like, I'm talking about the big names in the game that have been around since while I was in the Marine Corps, they were doing this. You know what I mean? They've been doing this forever since I was a kid, basically. But yet they push a coupon code every single day. All right. I'm glad some of you were able to catch it, but that is really frustrating with Top Step. Again, I've never been a fan of Top Step. I've never been a fan of them. I've there are people who get consistent payouts from Top Step. I will never deny that. Plenty of people like them, but there's also plenty of people that have had insurmountable issues with them. So just something to keep in mind. I 10 out of 10 times think Take Profit Trader and Apex are better than Top Step. If you didn't like Take Profit for some reason and you're a person that likes to hold your trades, I don't think Apex is good for you because they punish people for going into any type of drawdown. Basically, if you're trying to sit in a big long trade, Apex is not a fan of that. They're going to deny your first payout and they're going to want you to have a bigger to equity balance. The only way to make that work with Apex is trading the larger accounts. Like if you traded a 300K account, 150K account, because then you got more room for drawdown. Yeah, Jaden, you're right. There's only so much I can do to help people though. I'm really proud of Valor though. We still to this day we have a 99.4% retention rate. So that means only 0.6% of people that join quit. Now, in the beginning, I used to reach out and try to help, like, hey, why are you quitting? Is there anything I can do? But at this point, it's just not realistic. So if somebody does leave, it is what it is, you know. Hopefully they learned something. That's all I can say while they were here. Or Oriello, you said did not take a trade today, was waiting for the original calls. Would it have been a bad idea to enter into puts at the original calls? I'm not sure what you mean by waiting for the original calls. Um, the original calls, like basically you would have taken a breakout at 25,372, right? That was my original breakout level for puts or for NQ shorts. So that's what you should be asking about. Um, Entering for the original calls, 611.56. You were probably talking about what, I gotta look at this now because you're confusing me. Your question is. So yeah, you're talking about the same level, but for QQQ. No, it would not have been a bad idea. If that's what you wanted to do, that's what you wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with that. I would just ask yourself, what made you not want to take this? Because I feel like at least if you were in here in the pre-market, I feel like this is pretty obvious, right? Like, hey, we failed the 4 hour level. We got a 5 minute candle close below the 4 hour level. So we've confirmed a strong failure of this level. So my whole basis, good old fashioned 5 minute candle close. I'm looking for a continuation trade. My whole basis here is based on strong volume because that was 1.5 on the opening candle's volume, close below the level, which is telling me it's a real candle close. And now I'm looking for a flush back down below with my stop right above that key level, which happened to be 15 points. So it's perfect, absolutely perfect. So I would just put in your journal, like, what made you skip this? Even if you stayed cash today, you should journal. Journal, ask yourself, why did you skip the long trade? And then ask yourself why you skipped this trade. And then ask yourself why you skipped 372 because you already know I called it out. So you can't expect me to be calling it out again. That makes no sense. I'm already in the trade. I'm not going to call it out 30 points later. So just something to keep in mind. Again, if the market has 24 hours, I'm just going to go where the volume goes, guys. I assume the volume is still going to be New York session open. Do you know why? Because the stock market is still run by boomers. Boomers, 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 boomers. What do boomers not like? Change. Okay. I'm just talking from a business perspective. Even if I was working at the New York Stock Exchange, I would be livid if they changed the time that we all showed up. Right? I would really love like, oh, 9:30 New York session open. That's when I have to be here. I would be livid if they said, oh, we're open for 24 hours now, so we're actually going to show up at 8 o'clock. We're actually going to show up at 11. Doesn't make sense. So New York open session should still remain the same, 9:30. That's when I want to show up. All eyes are always on the United States of America, greatest country in the world, and all eyes are always on the American economy, greatest economy in the world. So all eyes are always on the New York session. All these people that trade Asia session, London session, they're just looking for trouble. That's all they're doing. Now, if it fits your time zone, that's totally different. Unfortunately, you do probably just have to succumb to the weaker sessions. Um, because it is better to trade an Asia session open than it is to trade the middle of the day New York session. It's much better. You know, just trading any sessions open is going to have that higher volume, but that is something to keep in mind. The market open should stay relatively the same. I could see it diluting a little bit maybe, but I think what it's going to cause day trading to be a lot more um, popular because now people are going to be able to get home from work at 6 o'clock and day trade, and they might like that. But I think it's also going to cause a lot of people to lose a lot of money. That's what I think it's going to cause. Um, when taking market open trades, do you go lighter on the first trade? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It just depends. How many days trades per day were you taking when you started out? Oh my gosh. Maybe 14, 15. I overtraded a lot. In the very beginning, I did. I quickly realized it was an issue though. James, I really, from my heart, want to thank you for discipline, teaching me, leading us to success. Before I struggled from being green 3 to 5 days and getting prideful, thinking I'm unstoppable, and then I blew everything up. What can you suggest to stay consistent with bad ego cockiness? Following your system, staying consistent, right? Let's say every single day, let's say your system affords you, let's say you scalp, you don't even hold these big trades, and let's say you scalp and you just make 500 bucks a day with prop firm, 500, 500, 500, 500. And then let's say a losing day is, let's say it's bad. Let's say it's like negative 600 because you're still learning. And you took two trades. There were two losses, negative 300, negative 300. If you're trading an appropriate system, you will have more green than red days. So even if your losses are bigger than your winners, you can outweigh and still be net P&L green. I don't want you guys to think just because your losses are bigger than your winners, that's guaranteed failure. It's not, especially with the win rate we have in here. Remember, the win rate in here, we're talking 90% plus. That is unheard of. That I'm not trying to be cocky and sound like arrogant. It's just a fact, though. You guys have seen the performance day in and day out. Some of you for over a year now. The win rate is over 90%. That is a fact. So use that as a comfort. Use that as I'm saying this because I want you to use that as a comfort, seeing that that is realistic. Do not let traders online place a mental limitation on your progress. Just because Joe Schmo online says, well, I have a 67% win rate and this is amazing because anything above this is unrealistic. Do not let him or her make that gospel in your head. That is false. You are what you make yourself, not what some random on social media says. 90% win rate is possible with day trading. Okay. So don't feel like, oh, I got a $600 loss yesterday, I made 500 bucks. I'm doomed to fail. Now the goal is to get the winners above the losers. The best way to do that though is by following your system. So I would say you need to sit down and ask yourself, what is most realistic for how you as a person trade? Do I have the mental fortitude to sit into some of these large trades? Am I there yet? Right? Just because you're not there now, it's okay. It just means you're not there yet. It's always about being optimistic. So now, as you're coming in from that perspective, we can say, all right, for now, I'm really good at scalping. Let me focus on scalping until I get a little more confident with reading price action, reading volume. And I know when I scalp, majority of the times I do catch winners, majority of the times. And as you get more comfortable scalping, you'll probably start scalping more and more and more. And you'll probably eventually start going into trimming these trades, letting them run, letting them do their thing. Because remember, that's what I did. I went from a scalper to, hey, I can take the same style of entries, these sniper style entries, right, where it immediately goes into profit. As you guys see, most trades we take, there's very minimal drawdown. And then, you can get a pretty big move out of it to letting them run a little bit, just shifting a little bit how you sell out of the position. So, but it's going to boil right back down to every single thing out there, discipline. If you're not disciplined with your system, one day can wipe out a month's worth of profits. Just one day. If someone goes on tilt for one day, let's say someone was dead set on trading meta today and they just chase the price action. Calls, oh crap. Puts, oh crap. Calls, oh crap. You could see how you can just get in a massive funk. You can get wrecked. You can get wrecked. So that's why it's good to have a set of rules. Hey, 2 losses, I'm done for the day. Hey, 3 winning trades, I'm done for the day. You know what I mean? So, I mean, here's a good example. Let's say I decided to take a fourth trade today. And let's say Tesla was pushing up here. And I was like, oh, guys, I like this. Guys, this is looking good. And let's say I saw this push above this double top that was formed earlier. I see this. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm in Tesla calls. Wrecked. It's like that could have easily been avoided by you just sticking to your 3 trades a day. You know what I mean? So, and because you know you should have done that, what happens is you try to revenge trade to get back to where you were. Rob, no, I will not change my charts for you guys. My colors are my colors. I don't want my chart to look like a rainbow. There's nothing wrong with changing your colors. You can do it. I just prefer to type it out. I just prefer that. It looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. And then I know if there's white text, I just know to pay attention. That's all. Kyle, there's nothing wrong with that, my friend. If you got stopped out, that's all right. If you want to rock a 20-point stop, you're more than welcome to. I would just size down a little bit. Like if you were trading a 15-point stop loss with 10 MNQ, you could trade with a 20-point stop loss with 8 MNQ, right? Keep it kind of equivalent. That way, the financial hit is the same. So you could say, hey, look, I'm noticing a little bit of slippage. I'm a little bit late sometimes, or it just is what it is. I'll rock a 20-point instead. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I just don't want you guys to start getting crazy and saying, I'm going to start rocking 30-point stops. I just think it's unnecessary. In my opinion, from what I've seen, what you guys have seen, 30 points is excessive. It is a lot. That is what most trading communities do. I just know this from all the people that have left the majority communities and come here, and that's their number one complaint is, hey, we take massive stop losses. There's 600 signals a day from 14 different traders. Majority of them are losses. There'll be one winner mixed in there. The one winner might be 60, 70 points, but all the losses were 30 points plus. So there's no way to realistically make any money. Um, which it's that's part of the issue with a lot of these groups. They get started by a guy. That guy gets cocky. He gets lazy. He's not a trader to begin with. He turns into a businessman. And then he starts to outsource to other Joe Schmoes to trade for him. And then it's no longer what it originally was. And then you have confusing signals coming from 400 different traders that have no clue what they're doing. So it just leads to you being confused, losing money, and again, paying someone else's mortgage, paying someone else's Lamborghini car note, basically. New here. Where can I find volume footprints? Casey, welcome in. Come look right here on my chart. Look at my screen right now. So my mouse is right here. You want to come all the way up here? Sets candles, left click, and then whatever I'm on. So right now it's on Tesla. Whatever I'm on, I'll come down and says volume footprint, and I left click that. And now you see Tesla changes to a volume footprint. If you do not have this option on your trading view, it's because you don't have that subscription. So I have or where is it? The Ultimate. It says Trading View Pro down here, but it should, yeah, it's Trading View Ultimate. So I have the highest subscription plan. That might be why. Um, just something to keep in mind. But that's how you see that. And you could see it on a lot of other things. It doesn't have to be TradingView, Casey. It can be almost anything. I know Webull has it now. There's a lot of programs that have that. So, yes. Yeah. So I started doing it. I started doing it so that people can see. That's why I started typing these out because I have them on my 4 hour chart here to the left. I have them, but that's why I started typing them out here. Like I'll add this one right here. That's why I started typing them out so you guys see them too. I don't want you guys to get too obsessed with volume footprint. Volume footprint's a nice tool, but I think a lot of you guys are missing the big picture here. Order book level two. Order book level two is where I'm seeing a lot of these orders come in. All right. Order book level two, seeing if there's heavy flow on the ask or heavy flow on the bid. That's how you can start to get ahead of these moves, because that's the key example to why some of you might have taken a loss here versus a win. Because I'm reading the order book level two and I'm seeing that volume flip. That's why I'm taking that entry. Same thing with right here. I'm seeing that volume flip. I'm seeing the orders hit the bid. I'm like, I like this. I'm going to go ahead and get in. If this was one of those trades that instantly flushed, that's another trade you would have probably entered, I would say maybe 9 points late, just because you're not seeing it. You're waiting on the call out. And then when you hear the call out, you're like, there's that second, right, where you're trying to process if that's legit. You hear the call out and there's a second where you're like, do I actually want to take this? Do I agree with James? Do I like whatever he is saying? You know what I mean? Yep. No, I do not play pinball with my 4 hour levels. That's what you're asking. No. Jonathan, I'm assuming that's the reason you didn't put it in the group chat. This guy said, I got $4,000 left to blow. What should be my next trade? Goodness gracious, my friend. Be careful with that mindset. It can hurt you pretty bad. Have I heard of Vanquish Trader for options? Yeah, massive scam. Massive scam. Again, just another company. You're just paying some clown's mortgage. Do not use a company to borrow money to trade options. Let me put it this way. If any type of prop account, if any type of prop account um, is charging you over, I would say $150, $180 to be safe. I would say 180 is fair. If they're trying to charge you over 180, you're more than likely being scammed. I'm not saying the product you're getting is defective. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're paying way too much. That's all I mean. You're being ripped off. Ripped off is a better word. You're being ripped off. I don't think anyone should trade options until you've been profitable for a year. I think if you can show profitability for a full year, you can move over to options. But in my opinion, before that, I mean, again, remember, all this is my opinion. None of this is financial advice, yada, yada. But just from experience, I'm telling you, you will more than likely lose a bunch of money trading options. A lot of people think grass is greener on the other side type of thing. Oh my gosh, yeah. It's not. It's much more difficult over here. A lot more difficult. Now there's more reward, yeah, but that's just due to the nature of it being more difficult. Let me put it this way. I'm going to use Tesla as an example. Yesterday's trade. All right. So you're trading options. You guys load 5,000 into your account. You take your first Tesla trade with 2,500 bucks. You take a 10% stop loss. You're negative $250 in 5 seconds. This trade stopped us out right away. So you enter, boom, negative 250, 5 seconds. You're like, ooh, damn. All right. Okay. All right. We'll see what happens now. All right. Let's say the next trade. Same thing happens. You enter, boom, negative 10%. You lose another 250 bucks. And you've used all your capital for the day because you're a cash account. So you went from a $5,000 account to a $4,500 account. You've lost 10% of your net value of your account within 20 minutes and you're done for the day. You literally cannot trade again because you've used all your money. How would you guys feel? I want you to put yourself in the worst case situation. That's actually not the worst case situation. Let's do 20%. 20% stops. So you enter with 2,500 bucks, boom, 500 gone. All right, let me try it again. Boom, 500 gone. You just lost $1,000. You lost 25% of your account, or 20% of your account. How are you going to feel? Do you think you can come back the next day with less capital to trade with and still be like, I'm confident I'll do the exact same position size? You know what I mean? That's where it starts to get really hard. Whereas with futures, even if you do absolutely butcher it one day and you blow up the entire account, at least the next day for the cost of $100 or even sometimes Apex $18 for the eval, at least you can start fresh, right? It gives you a fresh mindset, a fresh restart. You are not, I'm telling you, it's very difficult unless you're a seasoned trader. It's very difficult to lose a bunch of money on your options account and show up the next day with a fresh start. It's very difficult because you physically are not a fresh start. You physically have less capital to trade with. It makes it much more difficult to trade. So just something to keep in mind. I would never reset a pro account. They're going to try to charge you $500. That is it's a ripoff. It's never good to pay for that reset fee. It's better to just fail the accounts and start over. But yeah, charging $650 for a reset, ripoff, absolute ripoff. What it's going to do is make you emotionally invested in the trade or in that account. You all of a sudden it's including emotion because now you spent six times the money, right? Think about it. You could get six prop accounts for that. So you're paying $650 for one shot, or you could pay $600 and have six shots, right? Um, it's just my 2 cents. There are very few people out there in the world that can start out trading options and do really well. They're very rare people. Um, there's a younger gentleman in here named Haven. Haven does not like trading futures. He trades specifically options, and he is one of those rare individuals. He's an extremely good trader, but you can, if you guys sat in our one-on-one sessions together, you would hear it. Like he is very disciplined. He takes losses on the chin. It doesn't really bother him that much. Obviously, it bothers him, but not that much. He's very good about being a systematic trader. He knows where he might take $1,000 loss one day or a $1,500 loss one day. He knows the next day he might make 3 to 4 grand, and he's prepared for that. And when he gets in that winning trade, he doesn't get excited and sell early and make 600 bucks. He doesn't take six stop losses in one day trying to chase those profits. You know what I mean? So there's no point where it all starts clicking now. It's not like a day where you're like, holy moly, this is all making sense now. Um, it's like a long period of time. Like you'll notice in like a course of 3 months, you'll be like, wow, I've really like leveled up in the last few months. This is incredible. You know what I mean? That might be your aha moment. Like maybe you open up your TradeZilla one day and you're like, whoa, the last 3 months I've had green P&L. But no, it's not going to be like one day you just took a trade and you're like, I got this, I got this. Normally that's false hope. And normally, you'll take a loss eventually and then you'll feel like you're right back to where you started, where you're not. You are never right back to where you started because you're always learning so much. But again, a lot of people base their progress off of financial P&L, and that's where it gets a little difficult. That's where the line gets skewed. Because you improve a lot as a trader. I want you to think of you as a trader every day. You're going like this, but I want you to think every day as a trader, your P&L obviously is like, it's all over the place, right? So now, Cam, at the end of the day, that is how prop firms make money, right? Prop firms make money off of people who fail. They make money off of people who fail. Hopefully, we're all aware of that going into that business. I don't want to call it a predatory business because at the end of the day, in my opinion, prop firms are a godsend because there are so many people who would never be able to day trade otherwise. So, in my opinion, because I've come out on the other side, I know what it's like. I think it's definitely worth it. Now, to the skeptical person, they might view it as like a complete scam, et cetera, yada, yada. I totally understand. But if you're a really successful trader, what they're going to start doing is they're going to say, hey, look, let's give you some just real money. Let's give you a live account. We want you to keep trading on our platform because obviously you're doing well on our platform. And that's what's called a live account. So they'll just tell you, look, you've made, $54,000. Why don't we just take out the prop, any of that money? We'll just give you a fresh account with 54 grand in it. No rules whatsoever. You're just trading on their platform. Uh, there's no profit split the whole nine. So That's where it gets to eventually. All right. We flushed down to a new low here, guys. Contracts at 375 a contract. I'm trimming again here on QQQNQ. Second trim. We're at another 4-hour key level. We're at 200 points in profit. 200 points right here, guys. 200 points in profit. Looks like holding out for hope ended up paying off, huh? We got butchered on my trim there. I trimmed at 375 and it's already at 390. Damn it. It sucks. All right. 200 points right when I'm about to head out. That was nice waiting for that, huh? All right, guys. How'd you like today, huh? How was today? Everyone liked it? Good? Good. Clear with the signals, clear with the education, clear with the thesis and the thought process, why we're sitting in trades, why we're taking the entries. Okay, good, good. Yes, all of my order book level 2 and time and sales stuff is in the boot camp. I'm actually going to be, someone can educate me if I'm wrong, but what I've heard is I can possibly use order book level 2. I can record two different things. So I'm going to try to record my broker. Maybe worst case, I'll do it on my laptop. Like I could download order book level 2 on my laptop so I can record that on my laptop and then still have this up for the recording, for the actual recordings, uh, and go about it that way. So I'll try to put some live, like the live call out with the order book level 2 and the time and sales there. And I'll be able to create. Now, I'm probably going to create just a section alone in the bootcamp that says order book level 2 time and sales. I'll probably just call it order flow trading, and I'll try to keep it a completely separate section. So you'll have the beginner, the intermediate, the advanced, and then there'll be a section that just says like order flow. That's my goal. I would love to have like 5 to 10 examples in there. And I'm sure it'll happen, but I'm going to try to include an example of a loss as well, a losing trade. That way you guys can see, like, you'll be able to see on the order book, like I entered for calls, let's say, and you'll see a bunch of orders come in on the ask, and you're like, all right, I can see why he went calls. And then you can see that volume flip that I talk about, which is hard to see until it happens. You can see that volume flip to where it shifts, the order flow shifts from buying to selling, and you'll see all these orders start to hit the bid, and you'll see that trade end up being a loss. I'm hoping I can get that on a recording to put that in the boot camp, and that way you guys can see, like, okay, that's what a loss looks like. Because I've done it before. Sometimes we can cut that loss early because of that. There's been trades, you guys have taken some of them with me, where we're up maybe what, 10%, 10 points, 15 points. We're up barely nothing. And we've been sitting there for a while, and I cut them at break even. That's why. It's because the order flow is so mixed, and it's like you're trying to, look in the dark. And I'm like, let's just cut this. It's not even worth it, because my criteria for cutting a trade early is I ask myself, if I could go back in time, would I have taken this trade? If the answer is no, then yeah, I want to cut it early. Right? I want to cut it early every single time. Do you have a Weeble layout? Yeah, it's in the tutorial section. A lot of your guys' questions are answered in videos I've already made in the tutorial section. So, all right, 220 points at the bounce level again. We'll leave it here. Pretty cool to think we had this trade with a 15-point stop. All right, so quick review before I leave. Quick review. So we have, what is this now? 215 points profit. All right, so for a review, trade we took off the open was based on a volume push to the upside. Saw a lot of flow coming in on the ask, decided to take that long entry based on the hold of the 4-hour level. All right, hold of the 4-hour level for that long entry to the upside. Sat through some drawdown before that, decided to finally push up, rejected right at 447, starts to flush through. Whenever that was occurring, the thesis in which I used for the short entry, because we did stop out at entry. If you were in profit, we were stopping out at entry there. The thesis I was using here was 2 confirmations or 3 confirmations. Failure of 447, so that perfect rejection of my level at 447, combined with a 5-minute candle close below our 4-hour key level. On top of that, combined with heavy order flow coming in at the bid. So heavy selling pressure coming in, combined with the failure of both my levels, 5-minute candle close below on a 5-minute time frame. Set that up for a nice short opportunity with stops right above that 4-hour level, making that roughly a 15-point or 15% stop loss on that trade. And then we got to see a nice continuation flush really guiding our trims level to level and based heavily off of these 4-hour levels, which you can see 4-hour levels did prove to be pretty good support levels. We see a bounce here from 98 all the way up to my previous level of 36. Then we see another flush down to my 4-hour level at 250. And then even then, when we finally do come back up into consolidation, we end up holding 334 relatively well. If you notice this level I have here, not a single candle could close above this level. And then now, just due to some patience and some confidence, we can see we're being rewarded. We're being rewarded for our efforts, and we're currently 223 points in profit, and we are continuing to flush here. So beautiful to see these trades playing out as they're playing out, right? Tesla, unfortunately, couldn't do both calls at the same time yet again, but again, this just would have been a breakout of 488.36. You also could have done a breakout of the other level I had, 491.5, if you would like, based on the watch list. Both trades would have worked beautifully. Roughly 43% profit there at the peak. All right, that was 43%. That's what I saw, at least 43% at the peak there on the contracts. So just something to keep in mind. We are sitting here at the 611 puts at $4.50 a contract, with our fill being roughly around $1.45. So this is about 210% profit right here at this moment in time. 210% profit. So following very closely with NQ, this would have made substantially a lot more money if we didn't chop forever. So we probably would have been up 250 to 300% here if it had just kept flushing. But due to this, remember, Greeks decay our contracts over time. It's called theta decay. So contracts lose value over time. You don't want to sit in a trade forever, in an options trade forever, especially zero DTE. So that's why these contracts are not making as much money as they could normally be making. All right, but we're still selling here. I'm still going to be holding. We've already trimmed at 200 points, 200%. I will now wait for 300 points, 300% profit till I trim again. All right. So everyone's aware. It's basically how I'm going to stretch this out all day. 300 points, 400 points, 500 points. Same thing with the percentage, 300, 400, 500% profit. I'll scale out accordingly as I can. I don't have many contracts left. I got 40 contracts left. So I'm just going to trim 10 contracts per area. All right. All right, guys. Wonderful day. You guys crushed it today. Very proud of you all, you guys. Oh, 1% better. Where's the lighting here? Can I get any good lighting? I'm just too small. All right. 1% better every single day. Make sure you get outside, get your fitness in. Make sure you're doing your journaling. All right. Don't just take a massive win like this and be like, yeah, I can go play all day or go to work. No, journal really fast, 5 minutes. Write down everything I just went over, basically. Write down why you took the trade, why you were in the trade, where did you scale out, what was the max ROI of the trade. So let's say this trade ends up hitting 350 points profit and comes back to the entry, and you sold the full position at 30 points profit. I want you to write that in your journal. In your journal, wrote, I scalped this for 30 points. This trade ran to 350 points profit. I want you to feel that burn in your head, that sting of going, wow, that was 10 trades in one. That was literally 10 trades in one. I could have, well, 11 and a half. So, all right. All right, guys. You guys are crushing it. You're doing amazing. Just the fact that you're here tells me you know you want more. All right. You want to be not where I'm at. You want to be doing better than where I'm at. So you're just using me as a sounding board in the meantime. And I'm grateful to just be in a position to where you guys think I'm good enough to even follow my trades. So hopefully I could keep educating everyone and keep helping everyone get 1% better, right? All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Peace out. I will see you guys. I will not be doing a class tonight, FYI. I'm going to make a YouTube video, education video. I'm going to be alone with my daughter, so I don't want to ghost them just to make a class. All right, guys. So there won't be one tonight, but I will post one later tonight. All right. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Peace out. Stay safe. 1% better, baby.